menemukan dirimu, tentang apa yang membuatku mudah berikan hati.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful land located at Manchester. It is very big that it has the size of 180 acres. It is surrounded with beautiful green scenery and very suitable to develop a housing area or a park.
Untuk menyuratkan cinta ini telah habis sudah, cinta ini tak lagi
This is where the Victorian Park Company that was incorporated by an Act of Parliament in 1837 developed an ornamental gardens and parks, and also to erect housing with attached leisure grounds and then to sell the houses. There were 8 majority shareholders in total. The first one is Mr. Harbottle, Mr. Edshed, Mr. Byron, Mr. Westhead, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Dennison, Mr. Bunting, and also Mr. Lane. The first 5 were the directors. This is Mr. Foss. He loves drawing during his free time. While he was drawing, a figure appeared behind him and quietly tapped his shoulder. Turns out that was his best friend, Mr. Turton. Mr. Turton quickly flipped through the newspaper and shows Mr. Foss a very interesting advertisement. Surprisingly, it was from Victoria Park Company. Feeling very enthusiastic, they search for Victorian Park Company because they want to be a part of them. Upon arriving at the company, Mr. Foss shows the advertisement from the newspaper. Then, Mr. Harbottle hand in the contract that need to be signed. Mr. Foss bought 2 shares while Mr. Turton bought 12 shares for 100 each, and they have to pay 5 deposit per shares. They are now part of Victoria Park Company shareholders. Little that they know, Mr. Harbottle is planning something evil in his mind.
불타오르네.
After the incident from annual grand meeting, Mr. Harbottle decided to take the bookkeeping record and keep it to himself so that no one else can see it. Then suddenly, Mr. Foss out of nowhere came and tried to grab the bookkeeping record from Mr. Harbottle. Mr. Harbottle refused to hand in the bookkeeping record, and there was a small fight. Mr. Foss believed that Mr. Harbottle has misapplied their company's asset, and he quickly called Mr. Turton to report about the matter. Hence, Mr. Foss and Mr. Turton brought the case to the court, claiming that the majority shareholders have misapplied the company's property and various of mortgage were given improperly over the company's property.
of Foss versus Harbottle. Is the plaintiff ready?
Yes, my lord.
Is the defendant ready?
Ready for the defense, my lord.
Now we will hear the opening statement from the plaintiff.
Grateful to your lordship, my lord. I am representing the plaintiff, Mr. Richard Foss and Mr. Edward Starkey Turton. My lord, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client, Mr. Richard Foss, who is one of the shareholders of the company, want to bring the suit alleging that the promoter, which are Harbottle, Edshade, Byron, Westhead and Billy, has conspired together to profit by the establishment of the company and at the expense of the company. This being achieved by the company purchasing land belonging to the promoters at exorbitant values, not only being charged for the chief rents reserved to the original landowner, but also the company need to pay for additional rents reserved and payable to Harbottle, Edshade, Byron, Westhead and Billy. Furthermore, the defendant didn't allow the plaintiffs to inspect the books, accounts or paper of the company when the plaintiff requests for it.
Thank you, counsel. Would the defendant like to give their opening statement now, or would you defer until the plaintiff rests the case?
Yes, my lord. My lord, I am representing the defendant, Mr. Thomas Harbottle, Mr. Joseph Edshade, Mr. Henry Byron, Mr. John Westhead, Mr. Richard Billy, and Mr. Joseph Dennison. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, according to the General Rule of Incorporation stated in Section 18 Company Act 2016, the company is the legal person having a distinct entity from its member. So the plaintiffs have no right to sue the members of the Victoria Park Company for the injury that happened in the company, as the members are legally separated from the company itself.
The plaintiff solicitor may call the first witness.
Mr. Foss, is it true that the defendant refused to disclose the bookkeeping records to you and Mr. Turton?
Yes.
Okay, there's no further question, my lord.
Does the defendant solicitor want to cross-examine the plaintiff?
Yes, my lord. Mr. Foss, do you have any evidence or witnesses that shows that my clients really misapplied the company's assets? No further question, my lord.
Does the defendant has any witness to call?
Yes, my lord. I would like to call Mr. Harbottle to the stand. Mr. Harbottle, is it true that you didn't disclose the bookkeeping to the plaintiffs?
Yes,
Then why did you not disclose it?
it's easy because they do not have the say inside the company, so they don't have the right to see bookkeeping.
That's all from my side, Your Honor.
Does the plaintiff solicitor have any questions?
Mr. Harbottle, can you state the price of the land that the company has to pay? No further question, my lord.
After hearing the submission from both sides, the court decides that the purported plaintiff in an action in respect of a wrong alleged done to a company is prima facie the company itself. The plaintiffs have no right to represent themselves to sue the directors for the wrongdoings to the company. In law, the corporation and the aggregate members of the corporation are not the same thing for purpose like this, and the only question can be whether the facts alleged in this case justify a departure from the rule which, prima facie, would require that the corporation should sue in its own name and in its corporate character, or in the name of someone whom the law has appointed to be its representative by referring to the General Rule of Incorporation stated in Section 18 Company Act. Court dismissed.
No, not today. 언젠가 꽃은 지겠지, but no, not today. 그때가 오늘은 아니지, no, no, not today. 오늘 밤 주인공은 나야 나, 나야 나. 너만 날 기다려온 나야 나, 나야 나. 네 맘을 훔칠 사람 나야 나, 나야 나. 마지막 당한 사람 나야 나, 나야 나.
Kita semua inginkan hanyalah yang terbaik. Namun bila yang terjadi sebaliknya, bila yang telah kau usaha namun tidak akhir,